Hi everyone, I'm really excited to be able to join you today and with these amazing blooms from Hill Verdicibor, USA. They sent these boxes to me and it's literally product from all over the world. And I can't wait to kind of go through some of the things I would do just to process them and just kind of show you some techniques as far as letting them open and be in their full glory. So really happy to do that. One of the things that I've received here are these beautiful hydrangeas. Look at these hydrangeas. And I love these Chilean hydrangeas, especially because, first of all, we can get them this time of year. Second of all, you see how they have some varieties that are great big and some varieties that are a bit smaller. And I love these smaller ones because to me, they are so perfect for bouquet work, for centerpiece work. They're a great size. And I know a lot of times people are worried about how do the hydrangeas, like how can you stop them from wilting? And I rarely have an issue with a hydrangea going down. And some of the things that I do, first of all, you can just tell by touching this flower that it's pretty stiff, it's pretty rigid, it's not very soft. And so right there, we know we're off to a good start. Next, I go through and I remove these leaves. Now sometimes, if the plant is really exceptional, or the flower is really exceptional, I might leave a couple just because I want that little bit of green accent. But in most designs, especially if we're not using a lot of foliage, we want to clean that off. Then when we do that, it's just lets all that water go up to the flower. Come through here, cut at an angle, put in water. Now I'll tell you one thing that I do is when I have a bucket, I put them in deep water. I think that it makes it easier for the flowers. It's hard on my back, but it's easier on the flowers to drink when they don't have to fight to get the water up quite so high. It's sort of a pressure thing. And so that's one of the things I do. And I rarely have issues with hydrangeas. I mean, we're talking 1 out of 1,000. So I mean, which then it's kind of like, well, maybe it was broken or in shipping or something. So the other thing I want to show you is ranunculus. I have 3 or 4 kinds of ranunculus here, and they're all pretty much the same when it comes to processing. I think I have right here. So this is a Clooney variety that's in a series, I think they call this pom-pom or pon-pon, and it's a very roughly full variety that you can see. It's just amazing. There are different colors that comes in, like a green and white. There's some that have a little more of a fuchsia tint to them or purple tint to them. But this one is a beautiful blush in green and pink. I really love it. And so what we're gonna do is just, let me kind of show you. Now here's some stems that I cut off some other bunches earlier that I wanted to save because sometimes they open. In fact, you can see where this particular stem is starting to crack and open. Maybe you can see it. But nevertheless, what I like to do is I'll come in here and so look at this stem, for example. It has a lot of stuff going on there. It's got 2 buds, it's got foliage, it has this main flower. And what I like to do is come in here and literally cut this major side stem off. And so that the energy can all go into this main stem. So you can see when I'm done, it's pretty much just the stem, and the stems are hollow. So you can use clippers if you've got really sharp clippers. If you can tell it hasn't been crushed, but on this is where a node was, and so it's hard for you to see, I know, but it is a little more tender there. Nice clean cut and put into water. And so with these different, they're all different. Some have more foliage, some have side buds, but I'm just taking my knife and we'll just pop that off and then give it a fresh cut and put it into water. And now with ranunculus, like a lot of blooms, especially blooms that are gonna open more, it's good to give them some space. Don't jam them in the bucket too tight or jam them in the vase too tight because as they open, you want air to be able to get through there. You don't want them to open and be like smushed against each other because they really can't open to all their splendor when you do that. So I'm gonna put these back in here. I'll finish processing those a little bit later. But I just wanted you guys to see, it's pretty much the same with any of these ranunculus. I will throw this down into my box. And let me grab, oh, here they are. Now, here's another Cluny. I think this one's called Sherry. They didn't have the label on the box for me, but anyway, Sherry is really amazing. It is one of my favorite of these dark tones because it almost reads red, and I think it would be a pretty contrast to red, but it's actually a raspberry hot pink color. And you can see how the petals, it just has petals for days. Just like the last variety, you can see how it has these branches. I'll pull these off. Again, might save these if you need them for some compote style arrangements, small pieces, but for the most part, you probably won't use them. And then just take a knife, cut the stem, and give it a drink. Again, you want to make sure you give these stems space because when they start to open, they're going to need some space. Either that or they're going to end up crushing each other. And so they don't really get to their full glory when they're jammed all tied up against each other. So another amazing variety. These are Clunies and highly recommend those. Those are just amazing. And I'm excited to see a lot more growers growing these varieties. Okay, then we have these anemones. You see when they come in. So typically an anemone comes really tight like that. You see it's sort of a collar of foliage. Well, these came in and they were all tight like this. And I've left them out for a few days and you can see how they've opened. Isn't that incredible? This is what they typically call cerise or hot pink. It's a very popular color, especially in the spring, but I think it's a good year-round color. But often when you want to process these flowers, I know a lot of designers, because they want sort of a clean look, this foliage really bothers them. And so a lot of people will just tear this off and just pull it right off. And that makes a cleaner stem. But again, you just want to make sure that you cut it at an angle. I recommend knives are again the best. It's a hollow stem. Clippers will often you probably can't see this, but will often crush the stem unless they're super sharp. If they're super sharp, you probably can get away with it. But these flowers open up. These anemones here is one I've already cleaned. I mean, they just keep opening. And this is one of those flowers that I really like. That time of year when poppies aren't around, usually anemones and poppies are around the same time, but the colors might not be right, or maybe you're scared of the poppies. This can be sort of that poppy looking bloom shape, and it's that papery single flower, so it's kind of a fun shape, but it's also really, really incredible. Now, one thing I want to show you is this is a variety of ranunculus. I'm not sure exactly the name, but I believe it's Grand Pastel. And the reason why, you see it? It's crazy. Here, let me just show you this bucket. It's just insane. I know that light's kind of washing those out a little bit. But they come typically with an assortment of tones, from peaches to creams to almost yellows. I mean, that really is a yellow. Let me see if I can pull it out. Yeah, you can see there's a lot of variation in them, but that's one of the things that kind of is wonderful about them. Now, they have big petals and they tend to be a little bit floppy and they seem almost weak. And that is very typical of this flower. Don't be afraid of it. It really is a good, strong stem. Now, if you get petals that are drooping down, or maybe they got bent down because I just pulled it out of the bucket, I recommend just kind of tearing it off. Don't pull. Sometimes you pull, it's kind of like a Jenga game where you pull that one petal out and they all shatter. But just like before, you just pretty much, these didn't come with a lot of foliage on them because I think it's a variety thing, but just give it a fresh cut, put it in the water, and go crazy. One of the things I recently learned that's really good when you're wiring these for bouquets or for personal flowers is because the stem's hollow, is taking a thicker, heavier gauge wire and actually putting it up in the stem. And that can allow you to bend the stem, just kind of guide it to where you might want it, whether you want it to face yourself or kind of go up into an arrangement. And that's one of those little tips that's really helpful. But I love this variety. This is another Cluny, again called Grand Pastel, I believe. And these Clunies are huge. I mean, they're almost like a small peony. In fact, This was one of our best sellers often during the holidays, like Valentine's Day. Tulips. Tulips are so straightforward. I know a lot of times people get nervous with tulips. I often will pull the foliage off because I don't need all that foliage, or I just really want this bloom to shine. This is a double variety, and I will try to put the names of these tulip varieties. I know this is Rodeo Dark Pink, but these I've forgotten already. But these are doubles. And the thing I love about doubles is, number one, they last so long. It's almost like because they have extra petals, they have extra shelf life. And they just keep opening and opening. And this is like a red that has a little bit of, I don't know, maybe a little orange in it or not. It doesn't have the blue in it like some of the other colors, but it's really a great variety. Now, I know sometimes people have issues, again, just cutting at an angle and then putting it back in your water. With tulips wanting to bend, you know, where you've got a bucket and the tulips are kind of bending this way. And I should have left, some of these were trying to do that. And what I always do in the bucket is I'll take these stems, and I believe a lot of it is because they're trying to grow, because the dark side is on the inside, sometimes they want to stretch towards the light. And so I'll just turn them. Where like, if it's like this, I'll literally just turn the stem, see how now it's going to be angled into the bucket, it straightens it up, and then they just straighten right up. So you can see like these are all really straight. These red tulips here are really straight because I've been turning them just to make sure they kind of go the direction I want. You know, tulips grow on their own and they do their own thing, and sometimes that's great. If you're doing a wedding or an event where you can kind of place them where you want them. But sometimes when you are sending out an arrangement to a customer and those tulips are in one place, but by a few days go by, then they're up in the stratosphere or something, it kind of can mess with your mind just a little bit. But this is another variety that I really love. I love fringed tulips for a lot of reasons. They just look so different with that little lacy edge. And I just think this one's a special variety because it has the white with the pink throat. So the petals on the outside of the inner petals have a lot of color, and even on the edge where the frill is. But when you bend these petals back, you can see they're white on the inside too. Hopefully you can see that. But really incredible tulips. And so again, I want to thank Hildever de Boer for sending me these beautiful blooms. We're gonna have fun playing with them and creating with them, and they're just amazing. So be sure you go to their website, which is hbdusa.com, and sign up and check out their web shop because they have so many blooms just like this. And they literally have flowers from all over the world, here in the States, in South America, in Europe, and out west. So be sure to check them out. Anyway, thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great week.